Hello, welcome
Hey.
back to Legit Chat. I'm Joe. Jen's with me. Ben couldn't make it. Sorry again. So thanks for joining us on this epic flat Earth debate. It's going to be interesting, I guess I'd say. We have Moral Bob on the side of the flat Earth. We got Danny Dan on the side of the ballers, and we have several moderators here, who, as far as I know, are kind of in the middle. Tony Romy, who's Dan's co-host. We got Ryan from Dangerous World, Ron from New England, if he can figure out his microphone, and Andy from the Deep Share. So we were talking pre-show. I was gonna lay down some ground rules here. We're gonna do it kind of like a political debate, except less Nazi-ish. Going to give each side
and way more interesting.
Yeah, each side 2 minutes to kind of lay out whatever point they want to make or whatever flat or round proof they want, and then buzzer's going to go off, and then they can finish up whatever they're saying. Then the other side has a chance to go. So, like I said, pre-show, we're going to try to keep this non-talking over each other-ish. I don't know how better way to say that, but nobody likes to hear that on podcasts. So people just talking over each other. So we're going to keep this civil too, right, guys? Yeah. Yes.
Can you mentally
That's the plan, right?
Before we start?
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get going, we'll just go around and get everybody's shows and their contact info and all that. So, Ryan, you're first on my screen. Go ahead, hit it up.
Oh, yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to just kind of listen in for a little bit and see, the proofs on either side.
For sure. And Moral Bob on the side of the flat.
What's going on, guys? I'm Moral Bob. Hidden in Plain Sight is the podcast. And I don't believe the earth is flat. I know it is.
Perfect. And Andy.
What's up, everybody? I'm Andy from the Deep Share. I am known tonight as Andy Undecided Rouse because, I'm right in the middle because I don't believe anything that establishments tell us. I mean, there's no reason to when you follow the breadcrumbs, but on the other hand, it's the biggest one, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of debate there still, and I want to hear a good debate tonight.
Yeah. It should be interesting, like I said.
I figured the moderators, we can kind of chime in at the end or something and kind of give our perspective on what we heard. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I'm just here to hit the buzzer and piss people off.
And I think we can ask questions too. Like, I mean, if we want to maybe expand on a topic, we could ask a question to have everyone clarify for us because we don't know. We are not.
I'll be taking notes.
Like Corey says, I'm earth-shaped fluid. So
yeah.
All right, and then Homie Romy and Danny Dan from Rising from the Ashes. Either of you or both of you talk over each other. Give us your shit. Or don't
go for it, homie. He might be frozen.
Wine.
Homie is frozen.
He's like delayed.
Yeah. Fuck a G.
Go for it, homie.
Very nice. Homie, can you hear us? Okay, Dan, go ahead.
What's up? I'm ball-ish. I think it's a ball or roundish. I don't think it's a flat plane. I disagree with that. I disagree mostly with some of the things that flat earthers say and their proofs that they have, I think are questionable. And so that's where I'm standing at.
Perfect. And that's why we want to do this, to try to get different perspectives and see why you think what you think and why flatters think what they think. And Ron, is your mic working yet? Nod or shake your head. No, it's not.
It is not.
Well, Ron is from Wicked Planet. You can find them. I'll just do his plugs for him. You can find them wherever you get podcasts. And I don't know your email address, Ron. Sorry, but I can put it in the notes if you send it to me. So yeah, I think my whole stance on this thing is, like somebody in the chat said, it's not what we're told. So that's basically where I stand on it. I don't know if it's flat or ball. I just know it's somewhere, like we talked about in our group thread. It's somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere between both extremes, I think. And I don't know what that looks like exactly. Maybe it's a square. It's probably a cube. If we talk about the black cube shit, maybe it's a fucking cube. I don't know.
Maybe it's like a quantum particle where it is. However, it depends on if you're observing it or not.
Yeah, we've talked about that with
Well, here I'll keep it at this with this caveat at the beginning. what we are describing today, what we are arguing today, is our observed reality, whatever that may be.
And it takes the observer to do that,
Right.
to change it when
That's
they're
what we're doing. You know, whether or not, you know, it's round and it's a donut in the middle or whatever, you know, we are just going by what is our observed reality, whether that's flat, square, round, whatever. That's what we're arguing here.
Yeah, what you're suggesting is we don't want answers or excuses made by government agencies necessarily.
No
Is that-
appeals to authority, I think, is what
Right.
we said. No blatant appeals to authority. You can't just be like, well, NASA gave a picture of Pluto, so that's proof. Like that doesn't work here.
I don't think any of us are on that page here.
I
I think we're all
okay.
good with not using any of that terminology. We're good.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Right.
try to leave the science completely out
Yeah,
of it.
we don't trust the science, so
Right.
But I have every faith that we can keep this as ad hominem attack limited as possible, and I'll just keep buzzing you like this if you keep doing it. No.
Joe, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go, Ron.
Ron's in
What's
the
up?
house. Any other plugs you want to add before we get going, Ron? I kind of fucked yours up.
No, that's fine. Just the Wicked Planet podcast. Ron from New England on Instagram. Excuse my voice. It's been gone for a couple weeks. Buckley and I did a 2.5-hour show last night, so I kind of blew it out even worse. So, but I'm here. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah. All right, so I'll just start with you, Bob, and get your 2 minutes going, and just lay your opening arguments, kind of like in a court case. Use opening arguments. Buzzer goes off, and then Dan can rebut however he wants. So, starting in 3, 2, 1.
All right, so I'm obviously the flat Earth guy here, and I came to that conclusion after years of research and questioning. And once you start digging into the stuff, there's not necessarily one thing that is going to prove a ball or prove flat Earth. It's a preponderance of evidence, right? I mean, I have a single thing that should make everybody scratch their head and go, "What the hell?" And that will come tonight. I will say that, but once you really start looking around and really start researching and really questioning, there's only one thing to come to. There's only one conclusion you can come to, and that's the fact that we are on a flat stationary plane. Like there's just no evidence that we're not, unless you do what we've talked about not doing and appeal to authority. That's the only way to prove a globe. Like, so with your observable reality, there is only flat planes. And if you know how eyesight works and how light works and how all of these things work, then you can understand why, things appear to disappear over the horizon, or, you may see some kind of curve. Like when you're looking straight, you'll see a curve kind of come around you, but that's just the limit of your vision. It's called your personal atmospheric dome, because if you turn and look in that direction, it's no longer curved and it's straight again. So I'm going to just lay out a bunch of evidence that is really, 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 really hard to refute. That's what I'm here to do tonight. And we'll see how that gets handled. Hopefully I get some questions that are original questions, so I can try to explain some things that maybe people haven't touched on. So I'll give my extra time to Dan. Go for it.
All right. You were right there at about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So hang on, I gotta reset my timer now. Fuck, how do I okay, there we go. Oh, my timer's going off. All right, Dan, go for it. Starting now.
Yeah, so I would disagree with that. The sun is moving around us. I think that the Earth does rotate. I think that's observable. I think there's lots of things that are observable that we could come to different conclusions on. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know what else to say really about that. But I mean, it's there's a lot of different things that we'll probably get into. A lot of questions that I have already. As far as just the setting sun, I know he's gonna say that it's probably gonna get smaller, but that's not observably true either, unless you watch David Weiss's videos on his app, which he constructs for people for flat Earth. So
Okay, you good on that segment?
yeah.
So I guess
Okay.
I'll start it off with a question, and going back to Bob, how does it work with the moon? So I've seen the flat Earth models and how they're saying that the moon isn't actually, we're not rotating, the moon isn't rotating, the moon's moving kind of around the flat plane, if I understand the map correctly. So
Sure.
the reason that it looks like it's going over the horizon is because of that whole, I forget what you
It's like
called
line
it.
of sight, like
Line of
base-
sight, yeah.
It's angular
it's like-
resolution.
So what I was wondering is how does that work when the moon at the horizon, when it sets and when it rises, looks super big, but then as it goes over, it looks smaller and smaller, and then it gets bigger again? How does that work on a flat point?
I can explain that. So light travels through the atmosphere and can refract. Nobody's going to argue that point. That's just a fact that light goes through and refracts, right? So when a light like the sun or the moon is going through all of these layers of atmosphere, because when we're looking towards the horizon, we're looking through the thickest part of the atmosphere. Looking up, the atmosphere is a lot closer, and looking across, you're looking across way more of that atmospheric density. And so what happens is at horizon, that light hits that atmosphere, and it's called atmospheric magnification. And it's when the light expands because it's being refracted, and it makes it look bigger. Now Dan Weiss says that when you see the moon bigger, it's just Dave Weiss. Sorry, I've been talking to Dan most of the day. So but Dave Weiss says if you see the moon bigger on the horizon, if you turn around and look at it between your legs, it'll look small again. I haven't tried that. I just tried to come up with an explanation that would make sense scientifically.
All right, Dan, rebut.
What am I rebutting about? The moon?
Do you have anything to argue about the refraction and why it would make the moon look like that if it's actually just flying over a flat plane?
Or what do you think the moon is in general, or how does it operate?
That was going to be where I was going next with that.
Well, the moon does cast shadows, which is circular, which is why we have the different phases of the moon. And to me, that would only happen if we have a round globe Earth. I don't see how you wouldn't get crescent shapes and stuff on the moon if the Earth wasn't round. What the moon is, I have no freaking clue. I mean, nobody really knows. It could be a freaking orange for all I know. But so that, and then so shadows.
So okay, I was going to get to this later.
You want to let me get to rebut that real quick?
Okay, yes.
Let me rebut some of this stuff. So the moon shows a crescent because we're round and not the moon, because that doesn't make sense at all. Light shining on a ball creates a crescent as it comes around it. Now I can go deeply into how the moon is definitely not reflecting the sun's light, because if you actually observe this stuff, it's silly and falls apart really quickly.
I didn't say that it reflected.
Well, then what's lighting up the moon to make the crescent?
Said the shadow. Shadows don't reflect, they're shadows.
Oh, so the sun or the moon just always is lit up, and it's the shadow that creates the dark spots on the moon?
So if the sun,
that's a new one for me.
If the sun is in the middle and the Earth rotates around the sun, then the shadow from the planet Earth is going to create a shadow onto the moon. And that's the same basis of eclipses and everything else.
No, that's only eclipses. That's what an eclipse is. The ball narrative. Now we need to pound down what exactly that you believe. Do you believe the narrative, or are you just mixing a bunch of stuff? We need to get. If we're going to be able to argue that, we're going to need to figure some stuff out, because the ball narrative is that the moon's phases are from the light of the sun, and its relationship to the sun. It has nothing to do with us. except
not
when
the
there's an
rabbit trail.
eclipse.
Not to rabbit trail real quick, but the reason I was going to go with the moon first is because I wanted to know what Dan thinks of the moon landing. Because is that one that you trust from NASA or don't trust? Because I don't know what the moon is either.
Well, I don't think what the moon landing has anything to do with the Earth being flat or not.
Right.
But
That'd be a
no, I
tangent.
don't trust that we went to the moon either. But
Okay.
that doesn't have anything to do with Earth being flat.
That's why it was a quick rabbit trail. I was just curious as to what you thought about that. But all right, so Bob, what were you doing with
Okay.
the moon?
So the ball narrative, the data from NASA is the moon's phases are from the sun, not the shadow on the Earth. It's the relationship of where the sun is shining on the moon and its light reflecting off the moon creates its phases. That is the narrative. It's wrong, and it's easily proven wrong. But what I'm thinking I'm figuring out here, Dan, very quickly, is that you haven't even researched the globe model very well. So I'm going to be as respectful as I can, and I don't mean to talk to you like you don't know anything, but you haven't even researched your own model. And
Yeah.
I don't.
That's a good David Weiss point.
So you're already going to go to deflect and try to discredit me with slander by lumping me in with someone else. Good to know you're starting out early, banging, dude. Now
if you repeat
stay
all
on topic.
his stats,
okay, I'm not repeating anything. So to go to the moon is lit up by the sun. There's very few people that are going to argue that because that is what they say.
Can we get a fact checker?
Sure. Go right ahead.
Andy
Go to
Runs.
NASA.
Wait. Dan, you're saying that the narrative isn't that the sun is lighting up the moon?
Yes.
Is that it?
That's what he's saying.
Well,
So
wait. Let Dan clarify.
I'm saying that
You're not saying that. Are you
I'm saying that the Earth is what casts the shadow onto
from
the
sun
moon.
onto the moon. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
How would it possibly? Here's a question for you, Dan, because I'm going to have to draw something, and you're going to have to explain how the hell this happens.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
Because they're opposing sides, right? The sun's on one side, the moon's on the other.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like this is not a shadow, and you wouldn't have a shadow that defined on the moon from an object 93 million miles away. You wouldn't have just a defined. If anybody's played with lights and shadows, if you've been an artist, light sources that are far away cast faint lines. You can't see the edge of the line really clearly. Things that are the light source, when it gets closer to the object that it's casting the shadow from, then the shadow is sharper. But as you pull that light source away, the shadow gets a lot less dense at the edge of it, and it's not as defined of the line. Like that is just a provable thing. Now, everything that I say is provable fact. Anybody can fact check me on that. Anybody can do whatever research you want to. Anything that I say is provable and repeatable. Period. I don't stay in fantasy land. I stay with provable fact. So, Dan, when the sun is, say, over here, we'll say sun and earth. Okay. Sun.
Suspense is killing me.
I would say that.
So I don't know if this is gonna show up here.
Is that what we're?
But
No.
so you have a crescent moon.
That's a
here,
good drawing, dude.
But you'll have the sun. You'll have the sun on the other side. How is it casting an opposing arc on the moon?
Sorry, I couldn't see your diagram.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
sorry, I fucked it up.
you'll have the sun. I mean, never mind the fact that if you observe full moons when they go through the sky, the moon will be full when supposedly the sun is on the other side of the planet, blocked by the Earth. I'm not sure how that works. I'm sure it's going to be some explanation like light bends around space, bends light around Earth, and it hits the moon.
We just talked about refraction earlier, so now you're talking about refraction again, but it doesn't.
No, I'm not. Bending light is not refraction. Refraction is breaking light.
Bob, can you show us that graphic again?
I did
it.
It was a very poor drawing.
Well, I couldn't
Now
see
that
it.
I'm thinking about it, it's
that.
not the best. Oh, the graphic was not me.
No. What you drew.
Okay, so you'll have the sun over here and the moon by us. Of course, the proportions are fucked because I'm a little high. And there'll be an opposing arc. I'm sorry, freaking StreamYard flips its camera around backwards. But there'll be an opposing arc. So if in reality, what is being said, the arc would go the other way. From what Dan is saying, the arc would go the other way. This is observable. You can just watch this happen. Anybody that I watch the sky constantly during the day, at night. I'm constantly watching the celestial beings pass over us. And when you do that, you have a lot of questions, because if Dan was correct and the shadow was what was casting onto the ball, the arc would always be in one direction. And it's not. You'll have an arc opposing that side, because if the lit up part is still the sun. See, and I'm not understanding exactly what it is. Is the lit up part the sun, and then it's the shadow of the earth creating the other part? Because there's times that where the sun and the moon are in the sky at the same exact time.
Are we debating whether or not the sun is our light source? Because now I'm absolutely
No, whether or not
the
the
light
moon
source for
is
lighting
lit
up
up by the sun.
All right.
If the sun and the moon are in the sky at the same time, Dan, how is there anything other than a full moon?
Okay, so now it's Dan's turn. Dan, go for it.
So what was that last question? Sorry.
I said, if the sun and the moon are both in the sky at the same time, which happens often, how is it not always a full moon?
They are in the sky at the same time.
That's what he said.
That's what I just said.
Okay. So
how is there a phase of the moon other than full when the sun and the moon are in the sky, observably in your sky at the same time?
I've always tried to wrap my head around that one too.
He's saying that the sun and the moon are within line of sight of one another, yet the moon is in phases rather than just constantly full.
Right, because the Earth would cast a shadow on the moon, but you're seeing both of them. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
How's the shadow being cast?
From the Earth.
Yeah, but if they're both in the sky,
yeah,
with no Earth, no Earth
in the middle to block the light, how is there a phase? Can you explain that?
Well, if the sun is in the middle and the Earth is opposite the sun, the moon is also on the other side of Earth, and so the shadow is being casted from the sun hitting the Earth and it creating the shadow onto the moon. So how the phases are going to be as the Earth rotates.
You can't explain this. You can't explain this. There would be no shadow.
Off. The sun is way too small.
There would be no shadow.
The sun's in the distance.
It's gigantic.
There would be no shadow to be cast.
Yeah, the moon is on the other side of the Earth, on the opposite side of the sun. So
what are you talking about? Are you saying that the moon? Are you telling me that the moon is always 180 degrees?
I don't know why
from
you're
the
yelling
sun?
at me.
Wait, dude, we really need to clarify whether or not you're staying in reality, man. Are you saying that the moon is always 180 degrees away from the sun? And I'm sorry, I'm just loud. That's just how I am. My microphone is 1.5 feet away from me.
Yeah,
I'm just loud.
So yeah, the moon is on the other side of the Earth, so you're getting the shadow is being casted from that. Where you put the picture of the moon is not in the correct place. It's the adversary to the sun, so it's always opposite.
It's always opposite? It's always opposite. You're going to stick with that.
It's the opposite of the sun. Yes.
I don't know if we can keep going, guys. This guy's just not in reality.
Right.
Okay,
I'm
so
in virtual reality.
Have you
he
ever-
doesn't
wait,
even
have you
think the
ever-
sun and the moon can be in the sky at the same time.
Yeah,
didn't
we just
say
did.
that.
So the sun and the moon. So when the sun and the moon are in the sky at the same time, are you saying that they're just opposite? Like the moon is rising and the sun is maybe setting?
So let me pull this up real quick because
I think I
better
think
to see
just
what we're
real
talking
quick, we're talking. I think we're getting two different perspectives here. We're talking about what we're seeing from our position on the Earth from our eyes, and then we're talking about models that we've seen of the moon and the Earth and the sun.
Right. In this picture that whoever brought this up, that's not a real picture.
Yeah, I was gonna say that
Yeah,
that's
no.
not real.
Yeah.
That is
I
a
know it's not
fake
a real
picture.
picture.
It does
trying
give you
to-
the idea of what we're saying because it does happen. But
Not really though, because you see where the sun is. The Earth couldn't be casting a shadow on the moon if the moon's up here and the sun's way over there.
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
know it's not a real picture, but
Perfect.
it's showing what we're talking about though.
I
This
have
is happening.
videos on my phone that I wish I could share right now.
I
They're
think
on
if-
my phone of the moon and the sun being in the sky at the same time. Like it happens.
I just saw it the other day.
The
It
sun
is. I've seen it.
the sun moves faster than the moon. The moon moves slower. So the sky is just a clock. The sun keeps track of the days, the moon keeps track of the weeks, and the stars keep track of the months. That's our calendar. And it all repeats. So Dan, that leads me to my next thing. We'll go ahead and get away from this other stuff because I just can't continue down that path anymore.
Okay, you got 2 minutes.
So if you believe that the universe is expanding constantly and that the Earth is traveling around the sun and the sun is going through the galaxy and the galaxy is going through the universe, correct?
No.
No. Again,
No.
okay.
You're
So-
insinuating what I believe, but no, I don't believe that.
Okay. So
Okay, well, can
What
we
is your
establish that
explanation?
is the? Can we establish that that is the official narrative
that
that
is
we
the
are
official
arguing?
narrative.
Right. Okay, that's kind of what.
That is
We're
the
trying to get
official
at.
narrative.
The
Do
Big
you agree
Bang
that that's
heliocentric.
Do you agree that that's the official narrative?
Yeah, I guess that's the official narrative. I'm not too
Because
into
I can give
the
you NASA data.
heliocentric. I'm not too well. I thought we can't use NASA data.
Well, it's not to appeal
Only-
to the authority, it's to prove it wrong.
Yeah, we're just trying to establish here. Okay, this is the model.
Right.
Then Bob wants to criticize the model. We're just trying to get to
That-
that point.
yeah,
I'm
that's
trying to
fine.
get you to break the thing. Here's what I'm trying to do, Dan. I'm trying to get you to break down everything you think you know about the globe to where you actually start questioning it because you have founded your idea of the shape of the earth on these realities. I know because I did too. Right? Like everybody that believes the earth is flat was once a baller and thought we were on a ball. And so it's through the research of the ball that everything fell apart for me. So I know the ball very well. Very well.
That's what she said.
She does. So
Yeah.
the narrative is that we are going around the sun we are spinning at 1,000 miles an hour.
I agree.
We're
with
going
that.
around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour.
Sure.
And the sun is traversing through the galaxy at 600,000 miles an hour. And then the galaxy is rocketing through the universe at 1.2 million miles an hour. That is their data. And if you believe any of it, you might as well believe all of it because you're believing the data they gave you. So if you believe that we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and going around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour, that's data that they gave you, and you might as well just believe all of it. Because questioning everything else I said after that makes me wonder why you believe everything I said before it.
If I believed everything, I would believe what you're saying. So I would say that we have to question the time and speed and cosmic reality rather than in ours, because when you say that the moon that the earth is traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, that sounds fast, but when it's the earth traveling that fast, it's not really that fast.
Do you believe the part of the narrative that it's spinning so fast that there's a hump of water at the equator 14 miles high?
Not really. I think that the Earth bulges out a little bit in the middle from the force of it spinning, but I wouldn't
Based on
say
what?
maybe that high.
Generally, where
Based
there's
on
the
the
most
fact that it's just
volcanic
spinning.
activity is towards the equator as well. A lot of more new Earth being created from the. I mean, what's up with lava, right?
Right. Well, we could get into that.
should.
So Dan, do you believe that gravity is created by mass, and what data do you have to back that up?
I mean, do I believe that gravity is created by mass? And what data do I have to back it up? What data would I be able to use to prove that anyway?
Math.
But are we throwing?
then,
So,
no.
what
Like,
science are we
anything-
allowed to use?
Anything. You can. I'm asking you a direct question. Use whatever you want to use, man.
I don't know the formula for mass.
So
Bob, I have a
have
question.
we?
I
Okay.
had a question for you, Bob. Where
Sure.
are you getting all those numbers from? And I think that I side with you so far with what's being said here. Where are you getting all those numbers? Is it from
I mean, you can
NASA?
get them from NASA. Yeah.
Have you specifically gotten them from NASA, honestly, or are you just hearing
Some of
these
them?
things?
No, I have done research into NASA, and because I questioned the numbers when I did
Sure.
it first. When I first started doing my research years ago, I questioned all of the numbers and went and looked all of them up. And you can find you can verify all of it on NASA.
Okay, well, this may be a tall ask for like right now in the moment. Do you have like any kind of links where we can see that those numbers are right? Like specific links on the NASA site?
Are we
If you
talking
pull 'em
about
up, you can share it.
Are we talking about the narrative numbers, like the
Yeah, like the
1,000 miles per
600,
hour?
the 66,000 miles per hour, and all these things. And I'm not saying that it's wrong according to NASA. I just find it fascinating that not only can he remember this stuff, and I'm sure that you have taken notes, Bob. I'm just curious as to if there's links to where we can check this out, like right now, or anyone that's viewing this right now.
If I'm looking for a NASA specific one, it's not the first one that shows up, oddly enough.
Are you using those numbers in your flat Earth model?
Why would I use their numbers?
Exactly. That's what
I only.
So
Yeah,
let
but
me
your
interject
model is what they gave you.
Let me interject here because I think it's funny because we don't trust all the official sources and all that stuff, but it's funny to use the official sources math to literally prove the flat Earth argument when their curvature model doesn't pan out using their own numbers.
Using
That's
their own
when it gets
numbers.
me where I'm like,
Yep.
wait, these are your calculations here
So-
and they don't work.
Well, there's
Here,
no
what do
doubt
we-
that
what do we-
NASA is lying about what is happening and what's happening in space and what Earth looks like, in my opinion. Absolutely, no doubt. NASA is a money laundering scheme that is built so deep within the fucking Jesuit fucking technocratic takeover that there is no trusting them. But yeah, they're definitely lying, and no fucking doubt. They're absolute scum.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the Jesuits are a distraction. They are much smaller than other societies that are out there. There was something that Joe said before we continue on. Joe said something about the whole moon landing being faked and all that. I actually think that it's directly involved with the flat Earth or the ball model because of the idea of this firmament, right? And if the moon landing was staged, I think that has everything to do with what model is more correct. And I think that it was Dan that said, who knows, maybe the moon's orange. Supposedly moons are red and orange, right? And the reason that we see it white is because of all the water and the sand that we're viewing it throughout the atmosphere, right? It's miles and miles of water and sand. And so if you were to compact this all down, I think it's like 6 feet of water and 2 feet of rock. So it's not going to look the same way. So, I mean, when you see the NASA footage of whoever landed on the moon, it's not it's white when we see it that way. So there's something to be said about that whole thing. I think that Joe, that was a good question, honestly, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
Of
We do have
course.
a quick question. I want to try to interact with the chat too. We got Big Country from Whiskey Beer and Conspiracies. Holler at your boy. He says the one question that needs to be asked is the horizon actual or apparent? Dan, I'll let you tee off on that one first. Oh, you got to unmute first.
Actual or apparent meaning? Can I get a definition of what that is?
I think he means, is it like perceived, or is there an actual? Well, fuck. Big country. Expound a little bit.
I can explain
horizon
the horizon.
Yeah. Is the horizon solid? Like, is that horizon a real thing? Or is it like our eyes that are only allowing us to see, say, 10 miles or so, that's making it seem like that's the horizon?
Yeah, is
It's
it
a flat
happening or
Earth
is it
model. It's
perceptive?
going further away as opposed to setting around the curvature.
Yeah, well, your horizon's going to be wherever your eyesight is. So
the end of your visibility is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Whether or not it's flat or round, yeah.
So,
'Cause it
Dan,
goes past
I'm
the
trying
tree
to
line.
wrap my head around how you're still on the ball. Because
Okay.
I mean,
He says
I
the
don't
horizon-
understand how you're still tied to it if you don't believe a lot of the narrative that's been presented. Like, I don't understand how you can believe part of what they told you, but not all of it. It either completely, what they built with the globe is a house of cards. And once you remove one of the bottom cards, the whole thing should come down.
So I'll
But
say
Dan believes
I'll
in
say
a
why.
toroidal Earth. Actually,
So
he doesn't believe heliocentric, right? I thought you were a toroid
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah, I am. So I would say that I believe that it's spherical, because in nature, if we go with sacred geometry, everything has like some type of dimension to it. There is no sacred flat. So I would say that there's some type of dimension to the planet, and it's not just a flat plane floating in nothingness with a glass dome. I don't understand any of that stuff.
That's not what
I can
anybody.
see
No real flat earther believes that.
Okay, that's fine. I can see the sun and I can see the moon in the sky, and they're obviously spherical to me. You can tell me that they're not, but to me, my visibility and my eyesight tells me that they're spherical.
With a round, you don't know that the sun is a sphere. It's just a circle in the sky that's real bright. You can't see dimension like you can with the moon.
Correct. Sure.
Right. So to say that you could observe the sun as being round is a false statement, because you can't. You can see it being a circle.
Like you just said, it's round. Yes.
You can't
It's round.
see it being
It's a circle.
Spherical.
Round.
You can't say matter of factly that it's spherical. I won't even say that.
I would say that it's spherical because I don't think that a flat object would exist in space. If we even would say that space is water, then it traveling through water would make it round.
Would be like a leaf on top of the river with a little bubble of water on top of it and all the bacteria floating inside or some shit.
So do you not, Bob, do you not think that the sun is a sphere?
I don't know. I can't prove it.
So I just think
just sticking to the
okay, so if
It's just a light as far as I know.
But if the sun, okay, so if on the flat Earth model, the sun goes far away, it spins around us, and then as far as it goes, we can't see it anymore. I feel like it wouldn't look like a sun setting or a circle setting, vertically or whatever down if it wasn't a sphere. That's just an observation.
Well,
I think it was odd
I can pull this pin. I can pull this pin straight back, and it's gonna just get smaller and go away, and it's gonna look like it's going behind my finger, and it hasn't.
I think what she means is that the
If
sun
the
would have to
sun's
be
flat over us like this, though, going like this, I just think that it wouldn't over our heads.
That's a fair point.
As it goes away,
I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's a valid point. But you can't see dimension like you kind of can with the moon. So and it could just change perspectively. I know, not to appeal to this authority, but just to throw another idea, because flat earthers don't have all the answers, and just because we can't answer everything doesn't mean that we're wrong. We're just continuing to try to explain things. So supposedly there is a firmament over us, a dome, and if that thing is like a reflection in the dome from a light outside of the dome, then perspectively it would always be a circle.
So I can get behind that. So if there was a dome around us, for sure, if the circle was always like this going over us and it was flat, yes, I could absolutely.
And Dave has done some experiments with like a glass bowl that are very interesting on how light works.
You just said flat earthers don't believe in a glass dome.
No, I didn't.
No, I said they question everything. It could be that, but it might not be that.
Every
They're not
model does
glued to
have an atmosphere around it too, so that's a thing. Like what?
Well, there's another thing.
Yeah, the Go Fast rocket,
Since
man,
you
that
said
was
the
really weird.
a nice little word there, homie Romy, atmosphere. I'm gonna pivot to that, Dan, if that's okay with you. Let's talk about the atmosphere.
Sure, whatever.
So gravity is supposedly what holds our atmosphere from being sucked off of the Earth into space. Is that something that you believe?
Yeah, and gravity would be caused by the rotation of the planet.
So it's centripetal force, not mass.
Sure.
Okay. Because I remember actually learning that when I was in grade school. That's what was taught, was that we were spinning so fast that it pulls us to the center of the Earth. And it was somewhere around middle school that it changed to mass. And I remember this specifically when it changed.
Is there a relationship
there?
Yeah, real quick, is there a relationship possibly between the two processes?
Well, here's the thing.
I'm too dumb to know.
In order to spin so fast that you're going to be pulled inward, you are going to feel it. The thing about spinning in a circle is that it always feels like you're increasing in speed because you have to. If you do the math for the curve and the speed it would take to get around that in the time that we're told that it happens, you're falling. So you're increasing in speed as you go around. That's a provable mathematic equation that you can do, that if you travel in a circle, you're increasing speed as you go around, even at a constant speed. So we would be able to feel that force. Now imagine this. Imagine you're on a merry-go-round, right? And you're on the very edge of the merry-go-round.
You ever been on that one?
Okay. So on the merry-go-round, you're going around once a day on a regular sized playground merry-go-round. You're going around once a day. You're going to be moving very, very slowly, right? To go around once a day. Now make that merry-go-round a mile in diameter and make it go around in a day. It's going to have to speed up. And if you're on the outside of it, you're going to feel that speed. Now make that 24,000 miles and give it the same amount of time to go around in one day.
You're talking like the Gravitron, that thing where you
merry-go-round and make a difference.
Yeah, so it's spinning around so fast, and the idea is that the person on the outside of that 24,000 mile around merry-go-round is not going to feel it because the merry-go-round's just so big.
But we have atmospheric protection or
plasma.
Yeah.
We just have
other stuff
this
surrounding
magic
us,
force, this atmospheric
inside.
protection.
Right. So, that's where my question was going to be like, how magical is the atmosphere? Is it
super
bullshit,
magical,
or is where is the science that proves
we're
it?
diving into
okay,
ethereal types of,
right.
Like,
this is improvable stuff. But let's play with it for a second. Let's play with it for a second. So, can you repeatably prove that we can have a high pressure system next to a low pressure system, and the high pressure system won't seek the low pressure system without a barrier? Is that a provable thing?
I'm not sure. I'm assuming that you've done some research into it, right?
Yes, it's actually impossible. You cannot have a high pressure system next to a low pressure system without a barrier. It's just not possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible.
Talking about the vacuum of space.
But we're talking about having a barrier around the planet called the atmosphere. So
yeah, what if
the atmosphere is not contained? It's just gas.
But what if the firmament
magnetic force,
some type of an electrical force?
I thought it was magnetic.
Yeah,
it's
magnetic. Yeah, what if we're talking about the same thing? What if they're just giving up the ghost without giving it up? Like
the electric universe model.
And we're gonna have a Venn diagram here, Dan, because I think gravity is more likely an electromagnetic force. than anything. I think there's some
The
atmospheric
electric universe
density.
model explains that.
Yep. I
very
think there's
well.
some atmospheric density, but I
Yeah.
think to bring everything to the relative ground, it's an electromagnetic force that's doing it. You
I
know,
would
like
agree with
static
that.
electricity. You can rub a balloon on your head and stick it on the wall.
Right.
You know, so I think, and then you know, anybody that's old enough to remember old TVs, you would turn them on and they'd like click from the static electricity and they'd draw dust to the screen of the old TV.
Oh yeah, you
So
can see the
I would
balloon
agree
on
with
TV too.
with electromagnetism. I have no problem with agreeing
Okay,
with that.
well, then the only thing that I've got to get you to is the flat plane part of this argument. I thought I was going to have to break a lot of stuff. So that's really easy, and this is going to be my my one big one Mike Tyson uppercut punch that is my definitive evidence that I wake people up with, and I've woken a lot of people up with this because it's a doozy when you really start observing it. Everything is parallel.
I heard you say that
Everything
on the show the other day.
everything
Expound on that.
shares the same straight up and down and level. You couldn't even have the term level on a ball. You couldn't. There wouldn't be level. Try to put a level on a ball. See what happens. You wouldn't have level. So the fact that there is level and that fact that you can look around a city and every building, every tower, every water tower, every telephone
What about when the ball's
pole,
in water, sitting
every
in water?
structure, hold on. Every structure that you see is observably and measurably parallel. Every single one. City skylines are flat as fuck, and some of them go more than 10 miles. And by the ball narrative, there would be 67 feet of curve at least in the New York skyline. And every single one of those buildings, when you look at that skyline, is flat and parallel, perpendicular to the ground. And that is impossible on a ball.
Can we get some pictures of skylines?
Let me try.
Yeah.
But while I'm
easily.
looking for that, real quick, I just wanted to share this because before I forget, I have to share this picture. And sorry for the audio listeners. Google, what is it? Long exposure of stars. So how does this work on a ball? I'm just curious because this is insane to me. That
Yep.
How are you, if we're traveling like we're told, there's no way this fucking picture is possible, and there's so many of them.
Correct.
Just Google image it. Like this.
That looks like
this
that looks like you
alone-
throw a rock in a water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Google
that's
Google the
CGI though,
Georgia
right?
Guidestones. The Georgia Guidestones have a hole in them that point at Polaris and have for over 40 years since they were created. And Polaris is still directly in the middle, and you can just watch this. You can time lapse the stars just spinning around it.
Yeah. So Bob, what do you think of this? I'm curious as to your perspective on how this
easy.
works.
The North Star is directly above magnetic north, the center of our plane of existence, and everything spins around above it. And it was created that way to give us a clock. And it gives us our seasons. It tells us that they tell us, if the old Farmer's Almanac used the stars because they were a constant. They're the same, rotating. And so you know when to harvest, when to plant, when to do all of that stuff. And you could bank on it because they never changed. It was a cyclical thing.
Well, and apparently it's been like that for so long that they noticed it back in the day, and it's still like that. How is that fucking possible that we're seeing the exact same stars in locations that are very predictable every fucking year to the point where it's the same every year? Like our calendar, that's a different subject. Our Gregorian calendar is fucked.
Yeah,
I
the
think we
times
can
that
all
they
agree
tell
on that.
us as far as how
But
long
if you were to
we've
actually just
existed.
follow the sky clock and follow what's where, which is way too much work for me. But if you were to actually do that, you'd actually know exactly what day it was, what time of year it was, besides obvious weather conditions and all that. But Dan, not Bob, Dan, I want to know what you think about that from a ball perspective.
Well, I would say that there's no reason why we can't rotate around the Polaris star. I kind of believe that we live in like a galactic dome. Also, there's like another dome around that's encompassing the solar system, and then those stars are within that. And then we kind of live in bubbles within bubbles, and that's kind of like how it's like a more of like a multiverse
The
with
Russian doll theory.
some maybe
Kind
a
of like
little
a
bit like
scale
that.
invariance, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. So like if we're a round rock, then there's probably like another round thing above that, and it keeps on going. So yeah, I guess kind of Russian doll. So I would say that the Polaris is probably just the it's that North Star of it's the North Star of Earth. Uh, Polaris has changed. It was some a different star before, and there's also a Polaris Australis in the southern hemisphere too, as well. So we don't see both of them from the northern hemisphere.
Well, I have a question as well about this. Throw it to Bob. I'm not sure if this is kind of in the same realm. I could be way off on this, but the idea of the three pyramids with the three stars in Orion's belt, that has changed because those aren't aligned now, but they suppose that they were aligned probably around like 10,000 BC, and mythology goes along with it, blah, blah, blah. But those stars are no longer aligned. Is that in the same ballpark, or is that kind of a different argument altogether?
Wait, what's not aligned? Because the pyramids, they're tunnels that lead to constellations still lead exactly to each one of the constellations they were meant to lead to. They're all still perfectly aligned.
Oh, okay, all right. Then I was off on that. My bad.
Yeah,
I think you know what, I had it
rock
backwards.
solid.
I was okay. You know what, I had it backwards, that they were the argument that I had heard was the opposite, that they're aligned now, but were they aligned? The question was, were they aligned back then when they were
Right.
actually
It's
worshiping
How
this
how do they
correctly?
go back in time then to check where certain things were, like, because I heard them dating Göbekli Tepe with like that same type of stuff with star with certain holes and whatever solstices lining up to certain times during, they go back to 10,000 BC or whatever they say. So how would
yeah.
how would they be able to do that star mapping type thing if the stars weren't somewhat moving in some
Right,
sort?
exactly. I think it's all fuzzy bullshit, honestly.
Yeah, that
I
would
think
just
they
suggest history's
say
fucked up
that
too.
kind of stuff, but there's been stuff that have been found that they said was like 40,000 years old, and this constellation stuff matched perfectly. So
If I was going to argue that whole swirly star thing from a ball perspective, I would have two go-to things, right? I would say, there's so many damn stars out there that it just ends up looking like that, and they're so far away that it ends up doing that. Or the same thing that a lot of NASA haters say: it's a composite, it's a fake fucking picture, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like
CGI.
that those are like the two go-to things. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of these arguments from both sides are so overthought, dude. Like it could just be
right.
that swirly shit is all fake. You know what I mean?
That's why I stick to one basic thing all the time now. Everything is parallel. It's just provable. It's the most easily observed thing that you can see. You just look around and go, holy fuck. Those two water towers that are at least 5 miles apart are perfectly parallel. And you can do
That could
that
be
with
perspective,
every
though,
single
Bob.
tall
I would
structure.
disagree in the
That could
fact
be
that
perspective.
cityscapes and stuff to go. There's hills and there's uphill, downhill. I don't.
Things
So
aren't built
I
on
don't think
side of the hills sticking straight out, Dan.
you're right.
They're
They
they're
create a
made to
foundation
level.
and they built them and they
And they
build them
build them to
level.
what? To level.
Yeah, level to the ground.
Exactly. Level to what ground?
Flat
If the
Earth
ground is
models
like
say
this,
about tectonic plates.
what level ground?
It's the same way, Bob. If you were to take like an actual level that construction people use, and the ball will always go level. Doesn't matter if it's on a surface like that or like that.
Yeah.
The ball is always going to go level. So I
Exactly.
understand where you're coming from. I mean, I just don't get what you're saying. And again,
What I'm
I
saying? Okay.
think that you're right with a
So
lot of the things you're saying.
he's saying that they go to level when he's using two conflicting things. Oh, there's topography. Okay. I get that argument a lot. It's not a new one. Oh, it's the topography and it would change things. But on
What is
all of that topography, everything is
topography?
it's the changes of elevation in the Earth's crust. How, there's hills and valleys and whatnot. That's topography. But no matter where you build, if you got a mountain like this, right, and you build over here or you build over here, guess what? They share the same fucking level. They both will be facing straight up, no matter the ground underneath them. And why is that? Because there is a level, and you can only have a level on a flat plane, and everything is parallel, and it's indisputable evidence. And Dan, I know you're not going to agree to that here.
With that, yeah.
You're not going to agree to it here, but just start looking around, man.
Well, I actually disagree with it too, because you can put that on top of a ball, like a tennis ball. You can level out a level on a ball, and it'll be level. It's just the way that you're building it. And I'm not trying to stick up for one side or the other. I just see a massive hole in that.
Yeah, but no two places on that ball. If you take that level and you put it on a ball like this, if you move it to this spot, it ain't going to be level anymore.
Right.
It's not going to be level. And it doesn't matter how far you shift it from its original position. You can shift that level 1/4 of an inch, and it's going to change what level is.
Right. Yeah, it would automatically
shift to a different level. There are
could
no
be centimeters.
2 places. There are no 2 places. If there were 2 poles this close together at ground level at 100 feet up, they would no longer be touching. You could make them both level on a ball where they are touching each other, and 100 feet up, they would be separated because the 2 places don't share the same straight up and down and level on a ball. Yet we have entire massive cities where everything is parallel.
I would say if they're that close together,
also tall buildings. Let's say a couple that don't exist anymore. The World Trade Centers, the tallest buildings, right? They were over 100 stories, and there would each one of those pillars, because they took up city blocks. These are huge, massive buildings, and each one of the massive pillars that was in the corner of each one of those buildings would have had its own straight up and down and level, different from the other ones. And that building would have either gotten taller at the top, or in the plans they would have had a known correction to tilt those things in at a certain degree to make it the same all the way up. And that calculation does not exist in engineering. It doesn't.
I would say as far as like a city block, if they're right next to each other within a city block, you're not going to get that much curvature. So and then they're building foundations
so what curvature
also to make it level. So I don't understand how they would be so far different. In your opinion,
what curve?
It might be like maybe
hold on. We need to establish where you are.
I don't even think.
Dan, we need to establish what you believe here. What do you believe is the curve of the Earth?
Let's just say this real quick. Can I jump in here?
If there's the Earth curves,
if there's
you don't know the rate.
If there's any curvature at all, I mean, just draw a circle on a piece of paper. Any point on that would have a different straight up. If you put a dot in the center and put a million lines out everywhere, it doesn't matter how close or far away, they're going to eventually, how far away they get from that circle, the lines are going to dramatically get further and further apart, for sure. That's, I can't deny that. Yeah.
So we need to nail down what you think the curve of the Earth is. And if you don't have anything,
about 8 inches.
8 inches. Just 8 inches. 8 inches per mile.
Isn't that what the
mainstream narrative
is? Yeah.
It's actually a quite complicated equation. But there is a simpler formula that tracks perfectly with that complicated equation up to 1,000 miles, and then it starts getting off a bit. And that equation is 8 inches per mile squared. Because on a ball, if you start here and go away, you have to start squaring it because it has to come back around. If you just do 8 inches per mile, you get a slope, not a ball. So we got to make sure that you believe in like not the slope theory, because that would be a completely different thing.
Shit, I've never heard of the slope theory.
Yeah, I know. That's a new one for me.
It would be a new one for me too.
Oh,
So I'm just
okay.
some things need to be clarified because you're just being vague. You're just like, well, it curves. At what rate? I mean,
Yeah. Well,
you say we spin around at 1,000 miles an hour, right? That's something that you believe.
we're supposed to use observation. That's what
Right.
I'm using, my observation. So I have no statistical data for
okay,
you.
how do
because
you
I haven't
observe-
looked up statistics of everything that you're proclaiming?
Then if you believe that the horizon is perception and not due to curve, what is your observed curve? Because earlier in this conversation, you said the horizon is just the limit of sight. You said it was not curve. So what is your observable data that what we are
The
on
fact
is
that
curve?
the fact that there's a horizon in the first place would suggest that there's a curve to me. If it was flat, you'd be able to see beyond that horizon because you
Really?
would keep seeing. Yes, because
Do you not understand the
everything would still
limitations
be
of the eye? You can't even
everything
look
would-
down a hallway without it ending, without the ceiling and the floor coming together.
Well, let me ask this then: how do we see the light from stars that are so far away, but the sun goes away? I know it's an easy answer, but I just want to hear what you got to say.
Me? Okay, that's quite easy.
Is it just because they're super fucking big?
No, it's all ridiculous. I mean, I think the stars are in the firmament because if there's the inverse square law of light. So when you have a light source and you double your distance to it, it decreases by 75%. The light that you see decreases by 75%. That is just a verifiable fact that when something goes away, the light doesn't go as far. So to go ahead and debunk the whole sun theory that it's 93 million miles away is if the sun was right next to the earth, it would take up the entire sky. It would take up the entire freaking sky. Rim to rim, edge to edge, ceiling to floor, everything you saw would be sun. Now, you move that sun 8 light minutes away. 8 light minutes away. And now it is shrunk to the size of like a quarter held at the end of your hand. That's 8 light minutes. If you were to double that distance and go 16 light minutes away, it would be shrunken to the size of a pea, and we would be dark most of the time. We would have very little light shining upon us from the sun. And if you went 8 more minutes, you would be at 24 light minutes away. And the light from the sun would look like the stars in the sky, and we would be in absolute darkness all the time. And then if you went just another 8 minutes away to make it 32 light minutes away, you wouldn't be able to see the light anymore.
Well, sure, but
that's
you've cited NASA several times here, and again, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but here we're just going completely against what NASA says, and the stars are just part of the firmament, right? Even though we're saying that the Earth travels 66,000 miles, all this shit, right?
Right.
Why? I mean, it seems like both sides of this argument pick and choose what parts of NASA they want to cite, and what parts of NASA is bullshit.
Yeah, but here's the
why
thing:
I
don't cite NASA to prove my theory.
Well,
I cite NASA to disprove theirs.
Sure. I mean, I don't know, dude. I've heard a lot of NASA talk on that side. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. I'm not, and again, dude, I think that your argument is fucking solid. Honestly, I think it's more solid than the round side.
I would say, what are the stars then? What are they?
I don't know. It's impossible to prove.
Is that begging the question?
If they're in the firmament, then how come we cannot see them?
What do you mean? You see them every night?
We can't see them during the day. What are they?
Because their light is being drowned out by the sun.
But we can still see the moon in the day.
Because it's a completely different light source.
In the winter, you can, right? You can't really see it in the summer.
You can see the moon all the time here. I see it all the time.
So real quick, not to interject, but the reason I have pictures of fucking streetlights up is for the perspective thing. I'm behind on trying to Google images, but
if you look, that road goes upwards too. So
I think his point is that the lights seem to get smaller.
If that road's going up, now here's the thing: you can stand
digs in a road. I mean
the way our vision works is
flat Earth help at all.
The way our vision works, and you can see it looking down this road, is things that are beneath you come up as they go further away, and things above you come down as they go further away. That's why you can stand in like a long Vegas hotel hallway and you can't see the other end of it, and the ceiling and the floor come together. It's not that the
That's what I was
ceiling and the
talking about with
floor
the
actually come
horizon,
together. Right.
because
And that's what
Dan
we're
was saying
looking,
that Dan was saying that the horizon is proof of a
which
ball,
is
and I'm just going,
absolutely,
it's all
yeah.
perspective because of the way you're looking at it. So
Well, and
everything
there's
comes to a point at some point.
right. But even ballers aren't going to argue that if you look through a mountain range, as the mountains get further away, they get more and more opaque. And that is because of atmospheric opacity. As you look through things, you're looking through more and more atmosphere, and you can't see through all of that. So
Why can I
it's
see the top but not the bottom?
because it's angular resolution, man. Again, I can draw this pin directly back, and it looks like it's going behind my finger, and it's not.
So as I approach the horizon or the viewpoint, how come everything starts to rise upwards?
Angular resolution, look it up, it's a real thing.
Okay.
Like, it's
What does it
angular
mean?
resolution. Here's an experiment for you to do, Dan.
But that's an
Go to your
experiment that I
near
did,
Home
We should
Depot.
we should we
Yeah,
should
because
go
I'm-
into lava and tectonic plates and geology and shit, and like more about like the Earth as a celestial.
That's
should
impossible
finish
to prove.
changing.
I'm trying to stay in reality where there's provable fact. So
Wait,
you
about
can go.
lava and geology and tectonic plates?
We
How
have
is that
no
not-
idea what's under us. The deepest hole that's ever been dug is only 7.6 miles. That's barely through
I
the skin of
lived
an
in
apple.
Hawaii where I literally just
Okay. There's no proof on where
I
it
was
comes
just-
from. I'm not saying lava
okay,
doesn't
I'm sorry,
exist.
bro.
Like, I'm not a lava denier, dude. I'm just saying it's impossible to prove it comes from the core of the earth because it's never been proven.
Saying that I was asking your opinion, but
So I know, but I'm trying to make points, and you're interrupting me.
my
so,
bad.
So Dan, if you go, like I generally tell people to go to a Lowe's or a Home Depot, and because they have very flat, very level floors that go for hundreds of feet. And if you take your phone and a friend and you set your phone up with the camera closest to the ground facing away from you down one of these long aisles, and you take a stack of 3 bricks and you put them in the view of the camera and you pull them away, you will watch those bricks
is this your
disappear from the
analogy?
bottom up.
Yeah,
He's
Dave
giving
White
you an
says this, right?
experiment.
Yeah, I've done the experiment.
Yeah.
He said it, and I was like, man, that's fucking horseshit. And I'm in Home Depots like 5 times a week. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to do this experiment to see what the hell he's talking about. And I did it, and they disappear from the bottom up. And on these things that you start seeing disappear from the bottom up, like say a boat is going over the horizon.
They wouldn't do
well,
that.
if you have a
the Earth
high
was
power
flat.
lens, you can zoom in and see that boat again. There's no amount of zoom that should overcome the curve of the Earth. You can't zoom around the Earth. Just like radio waves can't bend and water can't bend. The only way for this stuff to happen is on a flat plane, and that's why everything is parallel. That's why there's a level. That's why there's sea level. That's why you can see lighthouses 40 miles out to sea. That's why if you're driving into Vegas, if anybody here has been to Vegas
You
and
see the
driven in
tops
at
of
night,
lighthouses, but not the whole lighthouses. And usually the lighthouses are on top of mountains or cliff faces.
do you
So
know the
that's why
curve
you can
over
see
40 miles? Do you know the curve over 40 miles?
Enlighten me.
Well, let's start with this. Do you know how tall a lighthouse is?
I'm sure they range in different sizes, but I'm sure they're probably upwards of like 30 to 40, 50 feet.
Yeah, tallest ones are around 150. So the light can shine far.
So there you go.
Yeah. So
of course you're going to be able to see that from far away, right?
Of course you're going to be able to see that from 40 miles away. Okay.
Right.
So the curve of the Earth over 40 miles is over 2,000 feet.
So even refraction would have a
so.
real hard time trying to explain that one.
You're talking about at least a quarter of a mile of curve between the boat and the lighthouse.
I don't think that's an actual curve either, and that's NASA number, so we can't go by that.
Oh, so we're just not. There's just nothing we can go by. You're just going to change when I
Well, that's what I was
disprove your
talking about
curve. You're
earlier
just going
with
to be like, oh well, then the curve's bigger.
no. So that's what I was talking
Then
about earlier
Yeah,
about
the
using
curve is
their own
bigger.
numbers.
We also have to do the 2-minute and 2-minute thing again, I think.
I
well,
know.
the thing is that goalposts are just constantly shifting. There's
That's
no
what I
point
was
to
saying.
continue to
Yeah.
argue because if I say, well, the curve is this, you're just going to be like, no, the curve's bigger, and that explains it.
I
But
was going to jump in real quick here. I got to take off. This is phenomenal, though. I really enjoy what's going on. I'm with Ron here. You know what I mean?
Ron asleep.
Yeah, but no. I find this fascinating. Both you guys I think are making great points. Joe, this is a great idea, dude. But I just got to get going. I have this new dog. He's raising hell out here, so I'm gonna have
the new pup.
Yeah, dude.
No worries, dude.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, guys. This is
good to
great,
see
dude.
you, brother.
I'm excited to hear the rest of it. Take care, guys.
See you next week,
Thank you.
homie.
Awesome to see you, Ryan
So-
from Dan's World.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.
So I'm not sleeping, everybody. I'm trying to concentrate. Excuse me. I'm trying to concentrate on what Bob is saying, explaining, and I am tired. It's late here on the East Coast, and I just lean back and close my eyes. It helps me to concentrate a little bit better.
I'm into
Because-
it. It'll help you visualize as well.
Yeah, because some of the questions I have are, I'm kind of like into the simulation theory. That's something that
Yeah.
I study a lot.
I love
And-
simulation theory, Ron.
And I'm thinking it would be more apt to be flat if we were in fact in a simulation, right? There would be no
Bingo.
reason for them to make up in the simulation this massive solar system in our little our solar system inside of the universe, which I believe if that is true, then we're inside of a black hole and we don't know what's on the other side of that. Like because I don't really believe like the universe is always expanding. For whatever reason, I just don't believe that. But
Okay. Well,
but if-
that theory's only been around since like the 40s that it's
Right, but-
expanding.
Right,
So-
but if we're in a simulation theory, it would make sense that we're just, flat, like it would be flat. The other thing that I always questioned is when they show that graphic of the sun like careening through space and then all of our planets, spinning around the sun in a corkscrew fashion, like we're corkscrewing through the universe.
That's the heliocentric, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so why is it like I've been living in this house for 30 years? Every winter, and it's only in the winter, I could go off my deck at about 8 to 9 o'clock at night, every night, and Orion is right there.
Yep.
Yep.
It's right there every night, all winter, until we get into like the spring equinox, and then it changes, and it's in a different location. But if I went out there right now, I can almost guarantee you I could snap a picture of it right off my deck. And if we're corkscrewing through space, I don't know how that would be possible. That all these constellations would be in the same exact place every year, like in the winter. That's the only time I could see Orion is in the winter.
Right. And that's the whole thing, Ron, is it's a preponderance of evidence, right? The globe, the official globe heliocentric model is so insanely silly that when you really start digging into it, you start going, holy fuck, how did I ever fall for this garbage? Because this is just nonsense. Like, yes, the stars are always the same. Now, if we're just going around the sun and that's all there is to the universe is our little bitty little thing going on here, then maybe you can explain it. But I don't understand, believing part of their stuff and not all of it. But, if you're, as far as what Dan's saying and the curve of the earth, to be able to just brush aside the fact that we live on a ball, and then I tell you that everything's parallel, and you're just like, well, the curve's bigger. Like that's not a proof. That's not doing anything.
Dan, you look like you
and
want to
so-
rebut. Go ahead.
So Ron, I I challenge you to do it because I don't think Dan will.
Dan, go ahead, rebut. Your turn.
Like Ron, just observe everything around you, and you'll see that everything is parallel.
I do want to add one thing before Dan jumps in for his time.
Okay.
When you said talking about the moon phases during the day, now I observed this the other day. I was out at the end of the driveway waiting for the bus to come, and the sun obviously was coming up. This is about 8:30 in the morning Eastern time. The sun is up, and then my niece goes, "Oh, look at Uncle Ronnie. The sun is up and the moon is up over there." And I'm like, and I just told her, I said, as a matter of factly, I'm like, yeah, that happens all the time. You can see that like year round. I mean, the weather has to be just right. The sky needs to be clear, obviously. And it was always something you just take for granted. Like the sun's coming up, yeah, the sun's up, and then the moon's, across from it. Of course, I didn't pay attention to what the phase was or whatever. But when you mentioned that, if the sun is up and the moon is up and there's no earth in between it, how could it be in a phase? Right? I mean, you said that. So the phases are, according to you, Bob, something other than what Dan thinks is that it's the shadow of the earth that's causing the phases on the moon. Now, I have a lot of questions about what the moon even is, right? Like, because there's scripture that says at a time before the moon or something along those lines. There's ancient writings like before there was a moon. And it is, and I want to say it was the Dogon tribe talked about when the moon came, when the moon appeared or whatever. It's just a lot of questions about that. And if you're a fan of Crow 777, he's a very interesting dude to listen to when it comes to theories, flat earth theories, the moon, the lunar wave, all that stuff that he talks about is, it definitely makes you think a lot differently than what you were taught in school. Like when I was a kid, I was born in 1963. So, I was a youngster and remember when we first, allegedly went to the moon. I mean, that was a big deal. That was a big deal back then. And to think about it now, how did we actually even have the technology back then to do that? And when you start seeing the lunar landing module and how that landed, I mean, it just looks like a cardboard box covered in tinfoil. I mean, that's what it looks like now. And I'm like, they would risk those guys' lives to send them up into the moon in some contraption that looks like that. You know what I mean? I mean, so I have over the years, and more so in the last 3 or 4 years, have started questioning. And I know this was always crazy. I always say, flat earth people are like total nut jobs, right? And I mean, and all of us here have talked to David Weiss. David Weiss has been on all our shows. He has a very compelling argument about all of this. His app is very interesting too. But and then you just like think logically, oh yeah, it's a globe. It's a globe. We're going around. The sun's over here, and then it's over here, and then so you start thinking about all these questions. Like, okay, so if it is flat, how does all this work? How does all this work with our weather in New England? Like, we got like atrocious weather. Andy can tell you, we're getting ready to have a huge storm come in this weekend, right? And it's like, okay, so if it was flat, why wouldn't like the weather be the same everywhere?
See, Ron, that's a whole other podcast because I don't even think weather is natural anymore.
Well,
I think it's completely manipulated and controlled. So, you may be. I mean, Texas is about to get frozen again, so we're bunkering down. But I think it's
Florida
all. I think it's all controlled. So
Yeah,
that's a whole nother podcast.
Florida's going to be at 32 tonight, which is very bad for the orange crop. But if weather, I mean, why can't they just make New England like Florida just for like a couple of months? You know, because it's so freaking cold here right now. It's
'Cause I hate you
unbelievably
guys.
cold. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll relinquish the floor to Dan. I just wanted to put in my 2 cents on that.
Oh,
And
thank you,
again,
Ron.
I'm sorry, you probably can't understand me. I could barely talk.
Your voice is fine,
You
dude.
sound
It's sexy as
fine.
hell.
It's all good.
Yeah.
You're good.
So Dan, go for it. You've been quietly waiting patiently, so go for it.
Well, I think when I was gonna say something, he was talking about the whole everything is parallel thing, and I conjectured with why it would be parallel. If you build a flat foundation, then you would have things be parallel. If you build in blocks, if they're that close together, you're probably not going to get that much distance between them. They're not going to like bow out or whatever if they're built on the similar foundations to ground level. So that was my conjecture for that. So, but he automatically just said, "I don't believe him." So I don't know what I'm talking about. But I don't have to believe everything that you tell me is true, and I can come up with answers on my own to say otherwise. And I don't think that I should get like a talking to by big old granddad over here.
Dan, I don't want you to believe anything. I don't.
Good, I don't.
I know things, and everything else is theories and ideas.
Right.
There are things that I can prove, and then everything else is just an educated guess.
If flat Earth was provable, then
I-
it would be flat.
I can prove it. It's indisputable. It's indisputable that everything is parallel. And if you put things right, the engineering would have plans in it to correct for curvature. And that engineering doesn't exist. That math doesn't exist. You can ask Adam from Deborah Gets Red Pilled. He builds elevators for a living. He knows. The engineering doesn't exist to tilt things closer to each other so they stay parallel all the way up. It doesn't exist. That math doesn't exist.
But he's building up. He's not building on ground. So I don't think that equation still is the same.
It would, because if you built an entire city on a ball that's 10 miles long, there would be calculations to correct for the curve over that distance to make all of those foundations level.
But it's going to be relative to its location.
What? So
it would be relative. If you built a tower with an elevator in it, that foundation is already going to be set at ground level. So if you build the elevator to go straight up, it's going to go straight up because that's how you built the building.
What is ground level?
It's level with the ground.
What ground?
Okay. What part of the curve? Because it's all curved, right? Every inch, every centimeter is curved.
It's all curved. Right? It's all curved. What is level on a ball? How do you find level on a ball?
Because they're digging out foundations and they're making it flat, and then they're leveling it out. That's how you get level.
What is level?
It's level. It's level to that approximate location. Yes.
Relative to what?
To where you're standing. The perspective that you're standing at. If I stand right here in my room, I'm standing level, right?
Okay. If I'm standing next to you, am I standing level?
Yeah, because you're on the same floor that I'm on. That's level.
How do you know that?
Because we're on the same floor. I don't walk down as I go out the bedroom.
Okay, so if I'm standing where I am and you're standing where you are, which one of us is level?
We're both level to our relative location.
Okay, and so I'm trying to get you there. You're saying that level is relative to an exact location.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're kind of getting in the weeds here. Jen had a question for you. It's I don't know if I pulled up the right picture or not,
No,
but
I wanted to ask. Okay,
it's
so if you
relative to
take,
flight paths. So
sorry, so I was
Mm-hmm.
looking at. So I have David Weiss's app, Flat Earth Map,
Yep.
and then if you were to take that, and I'm not arguing on either side. I actually just want to know if there's some sort of study to verify the distances and if they track. So if it was on the flat earth map where like just say South America, the tip of South America and Australia, if you were to fly from one point to another, I know we can't fly over Antarctica for whatever reason, so they have to go directly there. Just say it's a direct flight. But if you were to take that flat earth map and put it onto a ball, I feel like it would take a lot less time. So has there been any research done into that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there has. There's one guy, I forget his name, but like almost all, and he's got a really thick accent, so it's almost obnoxious to listen to because it's hard to tell what he's saying. But there's subtitles, so it helps a bit. But reading subtitles and then hearing his accent is a little hard too. But he focuses mainly on flight paths, and he's done all the math. He's done everything. I'm sure Dave probably has some of his videos on his site, but if I could find out the name, I'll ask you because I'll just message Dave after this, and
I'll probably
he
just start
knows
looking
who I'm
into it
talking about.
tomorrow because that would be a super curious thing. If
Yeah,
that's a real flight path, Australia should go straight to South America. They wouldn't pass over through North America with no stops
right.
unless it was actually shorter,
Right.
which would make the flat earth model
What
work.
what
I'm not saying it does or doesn't. I don't know
Yeah, that
anything.
guy, the guy that does the flight paths, he also does emergency landings, and emergency landings are really interesting too because they should not happen where they happen. Like
Oh,
there'll
weird.
be, yeah, it's pretty crazy if you look at emergency landings. I haven't looked at them in a couple of years, but um, they're a fun rabbit hole to go down.
All right, cool. Sorry, that was my weird question. I just thought that it just doesn't make sense if you take the ball and then flatten it out, it would take forever to get from one point to
And it
another.
does. I mean, that's a long flight.
It is, but it shouldn't take that long.
Another thing with flattening it out, if you take like wind currents that go around, right? So they have a map of wind currents that are the supposed wind currents of the globe. And if you take that map and you flatten it and put it on the flat earth map, it's perfect concentric circles.
Oh, weird.
How
Yeah.
long does it say it takes from Australia to the United States? Because I know from like California to Hawaii, it's like 5 hours. I know to like Tennessee from California, it's about 5 hours.
Oh, so
So
what I was saying, Dan, so I was just trying and I don't agree with either side or disagree. I'm literally
no,
in the
that's fine.
middle. I'm saying from the tip of South America to Australia, like from where the southernmost points to where if it was a ball, they would be very close together, but if it's flat earth, they would be very, very
yeah.
far apart. Does it make sense like either way? Like is the distance the same or does it at least is there some sort of calculation you can make to prove one side either way, I guess?
You would think, the funny thing is airlines love to save money. They don't like spending money, especially on fuel.
Then why
And
don't
that's
they
why
fly
they
over Antarctica?
bingo. Why
So
don't they
weird.
fly?
I don't.
It would be a very quick flight. It'd be like a 5-hour flight. Just a little hop. Bink.
Just like
It'd
flying
be
over
right
the
there.
North
They
Pole, like, his sister lives in Ukraine, and they fly over the North Pole to get to Ukraine. They don't just go from California just straight over there, like, they actually go to, like, Denmark.
well,
They
you know
have, like,
why?
connecting flights.
If
Well,
you pull that
all
flat earth
Antarctica is
map,
a no-fly
the
zone.
the quickest flight to the Ukraine from America is over the North Pole.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So
It's
they
right
fly
there.
over the North Pole, they land
Yep.
in Denmark, and then go to Ukraine most of the time, or
Yep.
go to Paris or whatever, but they always fly over the North Pole.
Yeah,
But
it's
why
because
is
it's the
Antarctica a
fastest route.
no-fly zone? I want to
The-
know that. That's strange.
Because of the
that
government treaties.
yeah.
UN.
So I think it was it was in the night between the 1930s and the early 1950s. Admiral Richard Byrd supposedly
So
this
no,
could
no,
be
I'm
all
sorry.
be
I
made
don't
up
mean to cut you
history.
off. No, we
It's
actually
during
heard
World
the
War
whole
One and
story.
Two.
We know the Admiral Byrd story,
Yeah.
and we know like that.
Well,
But,
the
like,
Antarctic Treaty happened.
Why do you think it's a no-fly zone?
Why do I
Because
think it is?
crazy. It's
I
nuts. Why would
think
you
we
not
know
be able to
why
fly over
I
that?
think it is because they're
Oh,
hiding it from us. They don't want us to know. I think Admiral Byrd found it in 1953 and he's got journals about it.
There's some crazy stories. That's
And
crazy fucking story.
and then immediately they made the only treaty that's never been broken. And it's
Yeah.
because of penguins. Okay.
I would say that there's probably obviously something down there that they're trying to hide from everybody, and that's why they bring certain bigwig people down there to see what's going on. Obviously, there's something going on down there, and they're probably creating a no-fly zone around it for a perimeter, so that way, if you were flying over it, you wouldn't be able to see it. And also, I would say that the weather in that area, I've heard. I don't know by fact, so I can't really say exactly, but from other people that have said that they've gone in that direction, that the weather gets really bad. So you probably wouldn't want to send people over that if you could possibly kill people
Why
from
I
here's-
taking
totally
that
get that,
flight.
but why would they send people
Here's-
there if
I-
they're not going to let people fly over it too?
Well,
I got
that's
a
what I'm-
question
because
for
of the
you.
weather.
I got a
yeah.
question for you, Dan. On a globe, on your model, why would the weather be so much worse at the South Pole than the North? Why can you fly over the North Pole and it's not a big deal, but the South Pole is a big deal?
Well, I mean, you could get into like Hollow Earth and an entry point from there, and maybe something is going on which is causing different weather. There's a reason why it's completely covered in ice. So even if you look at the ice wall explanation, there's still a reason why it's completely covered in ice on the outside, as well as why it would be covered in ice if it was at the exact South Pole. So there could be lots of things going on down there. And with the weather, if we live in like an electric universe and we have a tornado field coming from the planet, then you're going to get different things coming from the poles. So you might be able to get some positive energy coming out of the northern pole and negative one, which could cause all kinds of different weather situations, which could be why it's frozen in the first place.
Well, I think it's frozen because the sun just doesn't get close enough. The sun travels in between the two tropics, and that's what melts our region.
You could say tilt then too for the same reason.
Well, I'm glad you brought up tilt. I'm glad you brought up tilt because do you believe that's what causes seasons?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So the ultimate tilt, right, would be 180 degrees, right? But it's 23 degrees that causes our seasons. Do you agree with that?
Okay.
So 180 degrees would be more than 23, right? We are all going to agree with that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is it not frigid fucking cold every single night? Because 180 degrees would eliminate all our heat and we would be cold as shit every night.
I'm not sure that I understand. 100. What do you mean by 180 degrees? 180 degrees
When the
would mean
sun is
North
on the
Pole would
other
be at the
side
South
on the
Pole.
planet.
Okay.
Like when it's nighttime for us, but daytime for Australia.
Yeah.
How is it not frigid? We're on the other side of the sun. We're over here, or the Earth. We're over here. Sun's over here. We're 180 degrees away.
Right. It's nighttime. It gets colder.
Right. But it's not frigid. Yet we're on the backside. We're receiving none of the sun's warmth. None of it. Not just a 23-degree tilt away from the sun. None of the sun's warmth.
So
yeah,
Bob,
like I said.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Andy.
Are you suggesting like on the Earth, the ball model, we'd be experiencing like seasons daily, kind of like in a 24-hour cycle or something, kind of?
We should, by their model, we should be experiencing extreme cold temperatures at night
because in the seasonal thing,
of the tilt.
it just has to
go
down a little bit.
In the winter, apparently a 23-degree tilt, just a little 23-degree tilt, while the sun, by their model, is 3 million miles closer, just a little tilt causes us to have seasons. It's the most asinine thing ever.
So just
And
playing devil's advocate here. Hold on. And I am just devil's advocate.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
not on any side. Whoa. So so what if the earth can hold heat? And so if it's
Yeah.
holding the heat that the sun is putting into it, depending on the angle and depending on where you are, it's holding that heat and then it's putting off that heat and then the atmosphere is keeping it in. Again, not saying that's true because I'm pretty sure we're in a simulation, but it's plausible, right?
we are 100% in a simulation. I think there's too much shit that it's just like that they're fucking with us. That they're just putting that shit in there just to mess with us.
Yeah, and so real quick,
but
though,
if
so
the atmosphere can hold heat, then it would be able to hold it in the winter too. Like it's not just going
But
to
it's
hold
colder.
it like it's just we're talking about the slightest of tilt.
But in the winter, we're farther away from the sun, so that's
No, we're
why
not. We're 3 million miles closer.
No.
Yeah, we're just tilted farther away.
The
No,
data that
I do
NASA
agree with that. So
presents.
we're closer, but we're farther, like tilt, but we're closer physically to the sun in
Yes,
the winter.
so we're 3
Sorry.
million miles closer in the winter. That is
The tilt
just
is right.
NASA's data, and if you believe something that's not that, you're making it up. And then you can't attack me because you're saying I'm making stuff up. So what are we doing here if we're just both making shit up?
How would I be making stuff up if I'm not going with NASA's data? You're telling me that I have to believe NASA's data or I'm making shit up?
We're going by relative fact. Like if we're both just making shit up, then there's no argument. We're both describing fantasies.
It would seem to me that we are rotating in an orbit around the sun, then if we were closer to the sun, it would be summertime. And as we go away from the sun, we get into the different season. And then at the apex of being away from the sun, we'd be in winter, and then we're coming back again. I've seen models where they show the Earth on an elliptical orbit, and then when it gets close to the sun, it goes a little bit faster and spins around it, and it looks like it's closer than when it's farther out. So that would be the model that I would go with, and that's what I would understand.
Okay, so I have Google.
So what am I making up?
Wait,
I have an answer.
So that
here.
part. Hold on. Let me.
Let's let Andy talk for a sec. Hold on.
I have an answer here that, I mean, not that I love Google. I mean, fuck them, right? They're evil, but whatever. It's the accepted model is in early January, we're about 3% closer to the sun, roughly 3 million miles. So then we are during Earth's aphelion farthest point from the sun in early July. So
Correct.
yeah, there it is.
Yes.
I don't know.
We are closer to the sun, unless you're just rebutting what the science says, and then you're just making things up.
No, but what the point of bringing that into it is to say that if we were that much closer to the sun, yet seasons change just because the days are shorter, like that doesn't add up on an observable level.
Right. No, the flat Earth model is really like it's Occam's razor, right? The simplest answer is usually the correct one. Well, on the flat Earth model, you're a flat plane, which is also the face of the Earth. When things get wiped off the face of the Earth, how can you have a face of anything that's a ball?
Well, you have a face on your head and it's a ball.
No, your head isn't a ball. That's not correct at
round.
all. It's things that are round aren't balls.
I have 2 balls in my sack and they're fucking round.
No, they're called balls, but they're round. They're not spheres. They're not balls.
I got balls.
Are we gonna define the word "is" next?
Yes. So on a flat Earth, you have the center, and then the sun travels around, and it simply just gets further away in the seasons. It just gets further away. And you can observe it in the sky. It's measurable. When it starts going away, it does get colder in the middle.
Wouldn't the ice wall melt then too?
No, it doesn't come close enough to melt the ice wall. It stops at the Tropic of
But
Capricorn.
isn't it still in the firmament?
One. What are you, dude? Are you glitching? Are you spazzing? What are you just saying things because you have nothing else? Come on, man. Like this is you're just spewing
isn't
things
it still
out,
in the
man.
firmament? Isn't it still in the firmament?
What?
The sun. The sun.
I never said it was. I said that was one of the theories. I never said it was.
Okay. So what did you say it is?
I don't know what the sun is. I know it's a light that circles above us, and has a 24-hour cycle.
You're just talking about a model of how during the winter time the sun would be on the outside of the ice wall going around in a circle.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
Now, I think
not at all
what
what
I'm
I
trying to
said
say here is that using NASA's own the problem I have with NASA's data is that they're giving us data based on the heliocentric model, right? And based on their own data, it doesn't add up to that exact model. So that's the problem I have with NASA is that their own math doesn't add up to the narrative they're giving us. But we're going to close out here soon because I got work tomorrow and shit. But I wanted to end on this and what you guys think of satellites. So that's a big one because we talked to Crow about this and I don't know what to think about. And yeah, he kind of just I love him, but he just kind of brushed it off a little bit. And
I got an answer, but Dan can go first.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, with Dan, I know what he thinks about it. They're orbiting the Earth like this, right?
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure with satellites. I know I've heard a lot of different theories about those. To me, I always thought they're outside of the planet, but I guess they're actually within the atmosphere of the planet or within the bubble, whatever you want to call it. So I was actually confused about that when I found that out not too long ago. So I would say I'm not really sure how they stay in the sky and rotate. I guess there's some type of orbit that goes around, but I'm not 100% sure.
Fair enough. Bob, what you got?
So NASA is the largest consumer of helium and they control all satellites. They're the ones that control every single satellite that goes into the sky, no matter who owns it. They not only are the largest consumer of helium, they consume more helium than all other sources combined. And so then there's videos of people sending satellites up on YouTube. You can look them up, sending them up on basically weather balloons. And so NASA just sends satellites up on weather balloons, and they maybe get blown around with the air currents in a circular motion around our sky. And
real quick, the problem I have with that is that it's on your phone, it's an app, whatever, but there are tracker apps for satellites and they do match up for when these supposed things are flying across. So if they're just being blown by air currents, how does the app know that there's going to be one at that particular time and where?
Because I'm sure it's probably got a tracking device on it. So whoever owns it knows where it is at all times. And then if they're in a certain wind current, they know the general velocity of that wind current because it's probably being measured by that satellite and feeding them the data, and they can just track the path.
Well, so the other they only go west to east, right?
So I have a ham radio because I'm a dork and I got my license. And so I wasn't trying to pay attention to whether the Earth was round or flat. It was actually completely irrelevant. I just track satellites and I dorkily record the frequencies that I hear when I track them. It could be nothing. It could be something. It doesn't matter if I hear a weird static thing. Joe's like, what the fuck? You're counting that? And I'm like, yup, I got it. It's so cool. So anyway, that aside, there are no satellites. So there's a ball Earth and a flat Earth map on the app I have that shows the satellite pattern. So I know when certain satellites are coming. I know what their frequency is. And I was trying to look at different ones on the map, and none of them travel east to west. Literally none. There are zero. There are west to east. There are north, south, south, north. And they're always a little bit diagonal, but it's never east-west. And I looked it up one day because I was like, what the fuck? Why are there no satellites going this way on the map or this way, depending fucking backwards shit. Anyway, and it said it was because when they put satellites up, they use the Earth's rotation to propel the satellites. So they put them up and then the satellites go. And there are and this is just on an app, so I'm not saying that's real or whatever. I'm not
Right.
trying to say that's
Trying to
definitely
question
true.
all of it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely open-minded about it, but there are no satellites that I can find that are moving east to west at any point on any app, on anything ever. What's your explanation for that?
Well, I mean, it could just be all made up. Like
That's fair.
there is that it could just be controlled op and it could be made up. But the thing is on a ball, if one got caught in our atmosphere, again, this is just physics. It's just basic math. When something is traveling in a circle, if it's being pulled, basically for gravity to work with satellites, it's pulling the satellite over the curve of the Earth, right? So the Earth is curving and the gravity is constantly pulling it to keep it in its orbit, right? Well, if that was going to happen mathematically, that satellite would just continue to speed up over and over and over again. And eventually that satellite would speed up so fast it would fling itself out of our orbit and they'd have to replace that satellite. And that's just basic physics.
That comes to something somebody said in the chat. I'm sorry, I don't know if it was Todd or somebody, but he was talking about how the ISS is apparently going like 17,000 miles an hour,
Right.
which is how
Total
is the
garbage.
structural integrity of that holding up for that long at that speed?
Well, because it's
there's
fake.
no atmosphere. Right.
It's fake.
Well, the narrative would say it's
Then
because
what's
there's
the
no
setup-
friction in
what's-
space. You know.
And what's the
Right.
frequency the ISS is putting off? Because I do track the ISS and I literally can track its frequency and pick it up on my radio every single day. So I would like to know that. If it's something else, maybe
Well,
they're just putting some radio signal from some
that's-
tower somewhere far away. Like I could get
that's-
on board with that as well. But like there's a tracking app and I can definitely hear people all over the world. It's a repeater though. So I hear people in Montana, Missouri, Alabama, all over the place, and it moves and it goes away and then it disappears and it's gone. So there's a pattern to it. It's not just like there's a path that it moves in. I can hear people in certain places. It starts in a certain location, like around Hawaii, Southern California, Arizona, Nevada, whatever, because we're in California. And then it moves to Montana, Utah, whatever, and then it's gone. So it's like it's moving across the sky, across the United States from west to east, and then it disappears. And that happens all the time. So
Well, and that could be a satellite, and it's just in an air current. That could be a thing. I mean, satellites get sent up. It's like dozens of satellites go up every day, and they go up with helium balloons. I mean, if you
that's
have,
ISS, though, is what I'm talking
but the ISS, again, the ISS is so huge, and it would be gaining speed as it spins around. It would go from 17 to 18 to 19 to 20,000. And this is just physics. This is a provable math equation you can do. And it would just continue to speed up because it's being pulled in a circle. And so it would just continue to speed up until it got flung off of the Earth. But the funny thing about the space station and everything that's supposedly in space is they test it all in water, the exact opposite atmosphere of space. And they don't use any of their vacuum chambers to test any of their stuff. NASA's got like 6
everything above
vacuum
us
chambers.
is water, though. It's so similar.
Right, it could be.
Water.
I mean, the Bible, not to an appealed authority, but I just like having stuff. But the Bible says that the firmament is there to separate the waters above from below.
Yeah.
And they tell us everything in these books and stuff that they present us, and then they discredit them. So the Bible's discredited, movies are discredited, a lot of this
They
stuff
do
is
the same thing
discredited.
in our media right now.
Right.
They're like, vaccines work, but they kind of don't. But they kind of do. Whatever.
Any
Confusion.
word in the chat, always in here. Love to see him in here. How many satellites are allegedly orbiting the Earth and how many are shown via NASA footage? 13,000 and 0, respectively. So I always think it's weird. That's the biggest thing, too, for me is the lack of footage of stuff. Like,
right.
I think it was David Weiss probably said it, but he's like, why is there not one dude in the ISS that takes out a camera and takes a picture of the fucking Earth? That's an
Yes, I
amazing
agree with that.
opportunity. You're up in the ISS flying around Earth and you don't take one goddamn picture of it and post it on IG or something. But
I
it's
think
all
they do.
these
It's just
technology.
nobody believes it.
TikTok famous right now.
Well, from what we've heard, every image from NASA, which would be the astronauts as well, is a composite, which I don't even know why that's why.
NASA is a giant propaganda machine. That's all they are.
Oh, for sure.
I would say to explain that, I would say it's because they're traveling at a rate of speed, or the Earth is traveling, spinning, and so if they take the picture, it's going to be fuzzies, and it could be because it's so big that they have to stitch it together to make a composite to fit it all into one frame for us to see. I think that could be why things get different. That's why some of the times the continents look slightly different. It's because they're trying to form a composite of what the Earth looks like. But that's just what I would say could be a possibility. I'm not saying that's.
Well, NASA, funnily, NASA admits that their images of the Earth are from composite strip photographs from a high-flying airplane called, is it Lilith or Sarah? It's one of those two. It's either Lilith or Sarah, I think. And that's what they admit that they get the pictures of the Earth from.
Well, some of the pictures look like they're taken from the moon, or from past the moon, or I thought there was photo capabilities on like the landers that they send out and stuff like that.
There's no believable picture that I've seen. Recently, somebody posted a picture of the backside of the moon facing the Earth, and it was the silliest thing in the world, because it was a picture from NASA, and it was the backside of the moon, and the backside of the moon was dark, and then the Earth was perfectly lit up like it was daytime. And it's just like, where's the sun in this picture? Where's the supposed sun in this picture? Because I don't see it on the other side. Like, if it's behind us lighting up this side of the Earth, then the moon would be lit up on this side. And it's not. It's dark. And it was...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the only other thing I've seen other than the composites, and in fact, it's all over IG. You know, there's footage from astronauts doing spacewalks and stuff like that. So if it is fake, it's more than just a guy with Photoshop. It would have to be an entire studio of CGI and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
NASA
because there is more than just the composites. I just wanted to clarify.
Of course. Well, NASA admits they use Photoshop to correct their images, and they have more graphic designers than Disney. Like, they employ an army of graphic designers, a freaking army of them. And
that's interesting.
Yes, it's insane. And so it's
that's
like,
probably where Trump Le Monde in the chat says 18 mil or 16 mil per day, one of the two. But they have an insane
$53 million a day, not 18.
Oh,
they're done with 18 by noon.
They got to pay all those graphic artists. What do you want?
$53 million a day is NASA's budget. And they can't pull anything off that's serious. Like, they've tested their spacesuits in a vacuum chamber one time, and it almost killed the guy that was in the suit. Like,
Jesus,
how do you know they work in space? And they just work. Everything just works perfectly in space. Like, there's no accidents. Everything's just fine. You know, when they supposedly went to the moon, every single test flight they had failed. But when it was on go day, everything went perfectly. Like, it was like, wait a minute.
A very
like
50s mentality of things. Or 60s
you've
mentality.
never succeeded before, but this one time everything went correct. And then if you watch some of the NASA videos, like, it's so fake. The girls will be in video and their hair's up like it's zero gravity, but then they turn and it's clearly hairsprayed. And so, like I said, it's just a preponderance of evidence. When you really start digging into this shit, it's like, okay, literally everything that's presented to me is horse shit. So I can't believe any of this data. So where am I grabbing my data from that there's even curve? because I'd have to go to this horseshit organization to get that data. And other than that, observably, there's no curve. You can't measure spin. Even the experts admit that there is no machine on Earth that can measure the spin of the Earth, like the feeling of it. How? We're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, going around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. That's careening through the universe at 500,000 miles an hour. That's also careening through the expanding universe at 8.9 billion miles per hour. I mean, at 1.2 billion miles per hour. We're doing a collective traveling of 8.9 billion miles a year. 8.9 billion miles a year. That's their data. It's absolutely absurd. So if you believe this organization even a little bit, how? Like, if you question all of that data, how are you still holding on to the curve? I don't understand it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Dan, do you have closing comments before we get the hell out of here? Because I think we've pretty much touched a lot of it.
Yeah, I would say that just because NASA's full of shit doesn't mean that the Earth is flat.
I don't disagree with that statement, dude.
Okay.
But where are you? You can't observe curve. So why? Like, my question to you is, why are you holding on to it? Like,
well, that's what I've already said before. Like, I can see horizon. To me, the fact that the mountains would rise up as you travel towards them shows that there's a curve of some sort. Obviously, it wouldn't be flat if it was flat, and the sun would just go away and then get small and then disappear, and you wouldn't be able to see it anymore. And then also, if after the sun sets, why does it get dark then if it's still just traveling through the sky in a different position based on flat Earth? It would just go into a different location and you'd still be able to see it until it just bleeped out, and then it would get dark. So I have a hard time understanding that possibility.
That's exactly how the sun works.
I can see it. I can watch it set over the ocean every day if I wanted to.
Okay, that doesn't prove anything. It just proves that it goes away and the light dissipates. It's not proof of anything.
But it doesn't get smaller.
With this,
it doesn't have to. Your vision from if you look at the horizon this way and you spin around and look at the horizon 180 degrees behind you, that entire field of vision is like 40 fucking miles, man. We're talking about a very massive object. Its size change isn't going to be observable. It's 40 miles.
In the flat Earth model, I believe it would be observable.
How? You just don't understand the limitations of light and eyesight.
Yeah.
Like, you can't look down a hallway and see the end of it if it's long enough. Like, you can stand in the corner of your living room. Do this. Stand in the corner of your living room. Tell me what directions those flat and level lines from your floorboards and your ceiling, which direction they go. Do they stay flat and level? Does it look like they go up and down perspectively like this? Because that's just how eyes work.
Yeah, that's not proof of Earth being flat. I don't. Yeah, what you just said doesn't make sense to me. My house is going to be level because it's built on a level foundation. So
right, but when you stand on a wall, when you stand,
I can't stand on walls.
Your shoulder next to the wall, right onto the wall. You just put your shoulder right up against the wall and you look down your baseboard. That baseboard is going to rise to eye level. It's not coming up. And your ceiling, as it goes away from you, is going to sink to eye level. Yeah. It's not lowering, dude. It's just coming down based on perspective. This is an easily provable thing.
Based on where I look, I guess. I'm not sure. I still don't understand what you're saying.
Another shift of goalpost. When you look down your wall, you will see the ceiling line from where your ceiling meets the wall.
Maybe my rooms
it
just
will
aren't
come
big enough.
Down.
It
doesn't have to be more than a few feet long that you can observably see it. Your baseboard will come up. Your ceiling will come down. And if they were long enough, they would meet. at the limit
First
of your
perspective
eyesight.
goes,
Yeah, I don't.
Dan, have you seen the sun set or rise over the ocean in your lifetime?
I've seen it set, yeah, multiple times every day. I live by the
All right.
beach.
Bob, have you seen the sun rise or set over the ocean in your lifetime?
Of course, yes.
And you definitely think that it's for sure it's just a flat disc flying over us? I'm just asking.
No. I don't. I've already said it multiple times. I don't know what the sun is.
Okay.
I have no
I think
idea.
that's where the
It's
perspective thing comes in, 'cause if
circular.
you see the sun, I used to live on the East Coast. I've seen, so opposite of you, Dan, I've seen the sun rise over the ocean numerous times
Yeah.
in my
Right.
lifetime. And so it's
You know,
hard for me. I'm not saying the earth is a ball or whatever. I don't care. But I've seen it, and it's hard to wrap your brain around that, to say that we're just on a flat earth and that it's just a disc coming over us,
Yeah,
because
to
all
me,
you
like,
have to do is perspectively, you can do an experiment and you can look at the edge of a table, get your eyesight right at the edge of a table, and put a ball right in your eyesight and pull it across the table. It's going to look like it's sinking down.
Okay.
Like,
I actually like
this
this.
is
I
an
want
easily
experiments
provable
like this.
experiment. Like, it's easily provable. You can just, from where your eyesight is on the edge of a table, just get a ball and roll it away from you, and it will disappear from the bottom up. And now that may, say the sun is a ball. I don't know. It's a ball of energy, maybe. I think we live on something that's like a Tesla coil, and we're energetic beings living on it. And we could go into a whole
Definitely.
bunch of different ways. And the
This is a
sun,
whole other podcast.
the sun is the sun and the moon are the opposite poles of the Tesla coil.
right, positive and negative.
And then
Yeah, the
if
sun
you
charges
notice,
us as light beings.
if you
Sorry.
notice the moon, the fun thing about the moon is all the craters are cylindrical. Like they're all circles. All
The
the
same
craters are
depth, too.
circles and very similar. I think those were possibly lightning strikes. They're definitely not from any space debris or anything, because they'd be oblong, not circles. And there's craters on the side of the moon that's on the Earth side. And for something that big to hit it in that direction with that much speed and be able to hit it perpendicularly to make it a perfect circle is impossible. So I think it's lightning strikes.
We should do a big a deeper dive into just the moon, because that's an
I would love
entire
it.
show by itself. But
Have you
close out
seen the
here,
new
guys.
movie,
Gotta go to bed.
Moonfall?
Stop it, Bob. Stop it.
I would just say that
Sorry.
in the flat Earth model, if
Don't
you
be
hold the
sorry.
sun above and it's rotating around like whatever the Tropic of Capricorn or whatever, it's going to be high in the air. So if it goes out of your view, it's going to come out of your view still in the sky. It's not going to go over a horizon. And I think that's the part that I can't explain that, and I don't understand that. So flat Earth doesn't make sense for me. I see a horizon. I see things get bigger as I get closer to them. So it makes sense that it's probably because it's over a round curve.
All right. Well, that's as
That's
good
right.
a way to close out as any. We in our intro, we always say, "I don't know shit about fuck," and I don't, and I still
We
don't know shit
don't.
about fuck, and we can talk about this till 6 a.m. and I'm still going to be like, "Yeah, I don't know."
But
But
this was actually very sorry. Go ahead.
no, it was very fun. It was great. We were all still friends, as far as I know,
Right?
and hopefully we can remain friends. Oh, that's the wrong button. Sorry. Anyway, but one more time, let's go around and any good nights or anything you want to do, Andy, Ron. I know Ron's falling asleep over there.
No, he's concentrating.
Yeah, I think this was awesome. Thank you, Joe and Jen, for hosting this. This was great. Bob, it was great to meet you and great to hear what you had to say. Dan, awesome always to see you, man. Ron, good to see you. It's been a while. Thanks for having me. I would say that I'm still, I don't even know where I am. I'm very curious about doing some more level experiments now, for sure. My reasoning for not holding on to the ball in my personal view necessarily, but to still play with it lies inside of a very, very, very deep topic that Dan and I explore that kind of it's hard to even bring up on this. It would be a completely separate topic, of course, but we explored on our other show, Roots of Creation. It's called the Box Saga, and it's talking about an origin story that seems to be, for many, many reasons, too coincidental to be coincidence, right? And on the ball model is very central to a big part of the origin. And I don't necessarily say that, okay, because I'm studying that, I want to stick to the ball, but I'm very curious to kind of bring the flat earth model into the saga and see what changes and what doesn't change, you know? So it's fascinating. I don't know.
I
I
would
think a
say
lot will change, of course, but
I would say some of the work that Chance Garton and Benjamin Balderson have been doing with flat Earth, or kind of not really flat Earth, but more egg Earth stuff, has been really interesting. And I've been listening to what they have to say. They come up with all kinds of different alchemical things and all sorts of other things that to me make a lot more sense. So I'm not saying that but it's still an egg shape, so it's still spherical and to an extent. The flat plane thing, I just don't understand. I don't see, is the galaxy spinning around the flat plane, or what's going on there? Because I don't understand that either. I thought flat
that's
earthers
still
don't believe in space. So I mean, I don't know.
That's for next time. Ron, closing arguments.
Yeah, hey, thanks for inviting me on. It's been really interesting. Bob's the first time we met. Dan, Andy, always great to see you guys, Joe and Jen. And yeah, it's definitely a hot topic for sure. Coming from both sides, like I said, I've always been agnostic about it, but I try to be realistic. I want to think that we're on a ball, but when you talk to people like Bob or David Weiss or even a lot of the other stuff that I study, even one of my guest hosts that comes on, Anonymous Sean, him and Bob, I've got to get together because those guys could
Down.
go on for hours.
that would be
But
good. Yeah, man.
but anyway, so yeah, but thanks for having me on. I do got to go though. I got to be up super early in the morning,
Oh, geez.
and
All right,
it's
get your voice better on.
Let's
yeah.
connect, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do that. I'll reach out to you, Bob. But yeah, we got a long weekend ahead of us. We got a lot of snow coming. That means I'm going to be really busy. But thanks for having me on, and we'll see you guys all real soon.
Of course. Thank
All
you
right,
so
man.
See you,
much,
Ron.
Ron.
Okay,
See you,
okay,
dude.
bye-bye,
Thanks
guys. Good night.
everybody for joining, and we'll catch you next time. And use your fucking turn signals.